I now invite us into a guided meditation of sacred connection to the Earth's present and its future. You can start by closing your eyes or softening your gaze, whatever feels right to you. Finding a position that feels aware and relaxed. Take a moment to extend your awareness to the ground beneath you and feel how you are connected to the earth. Aware of how you are rooted and grounded on this land. Notice your incoming breath. The air entering your nostrils, your mouth, filling up your belly. All of that oxygen that keeps you alive comes from forests, plants, oceans, and lakes around you. Just as the carbon dioxide you exhale nourishes them in interdependence. As you breathe in and back out, allow your awareness to extend beyond your immediate surroundings. Imagine the forest and the oceans inhaling as you exhale and exhaling as you inhale. Evergreen trees, ladybugs, swordfish, the Grand Canyon, the Great Barrier Reef, the glorious peaks of the Himalayas, and the grasslands of Tibet. All of us are breathing in tandem, receiving life as we inhale, and offering life as we exhale. I invite you now to stay with your sacred breath as part of one vast ecosystem, and imagine yourself journeying forward through time. Take a moment to imagine one being, a person, a plant, an animal, 3 generations out, about 100 years from now. You do not need to know this being's circumstances. Just imagine that this descendant is looking back at you from the time and place that they inhabit. Softly smile at them and ask what they want to tell you about environmental justice, what they have to share about your spiritual kinship with the earth. What counsel do they have? What encouragement might they offer? Keeping your heart and your mind spaciously open, together we will take one more deep breath, breathing in this wisdom and breathing out gratitude. And now I invite you to bring this appreciation and awareness back into the room, back into your body. You might wiggle your fingers and toes. And when you are ready, open your eyes, return your gaze to the space, carrying this sense of stillness as we continue to listen.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
My earliest eco memory involves rocks. When I was a little girl, my family moved to this big new house. It seemed big at the time. And I was fascinated by its very rocky landscaping. Dozens of shades of river rock with a variety of stripes, speckles, and sizes, with these huge, large boulders, attracted not just my eye, but also my imagination. Even though it was raining when we first moved into this new home, my younger brother and I stayed in the backyard, donning our raincoats to gather our most favorite stones. I was captivated by the rock's warm, earthly fragrance released from the rain. But more than just merely gazing at the mystery and the wonder of each rock, my brother and I also had a grand plan. We were planning on bringing as many rocks as we could possibly get away with inside our dirt-free brand new home. And while my mother appreciated this enthusiasm for our very unique interior designing plans, she told us these rocks are not going anywhere. They were not ours to own, and they had to stay outside. Geologically, rocks hold the story of our earth. Spiritually, rocks hold the soul of our earth. You see, as earthlings, we humans have been in this deep spiritual kinship with rocks for a very long time. The worship of sacred stones is one of the most ancient forms of religion. Our prehistoric ancestors, humans that date back millions of years, made these very elaborate rock altars and stone circles, connecting deeper to themselves, to one another, to creation and the divine. This is a form of nature veneration many of our present-day pagans have still kept alive. And in the Bible, the most ancient shrine was a rock. In Genesis, Jacob had this dream of a ladder that connected earth to heaven, with angels climbing up its steps. When Jacob woke up, he set a stone to mark that place and named it Bethel, the house of God. And today, the most venerated rock is the holiest shrine in Islam, the Black Stone of Mecca, where millions of Muslims make a pilgrimage to walk around this holy stone relic of black prismatic crystals 7 times. According to some Islamic legends, that stone, the Black Stone of Mecca, fell from the sky to show Adam and Eve where to build a temple. And over time, that rock has changed into its dark color because it absorbs the many wrongs of all those pilgrimages across the ages. In many indigenous religious traditions all over the world, sacred rocks and stones are honored as agents of creation. keeping their spirits alive through ceremony, through song and story. In Buddhist culture, Japanese rock gardens make a powerful form of meditation. And in Tibet, stone plates are stacked on top of one another to make this beautiful holy heap as a form of Buddhist devotional prayer. In scientific communities, rocks are these windows into the universe. And mineralogists take geological pilgrimages of their own kind, discovering deep insight about just how intertwined our molecular makeup is with these organizing minerals of life. As said by one earth scientist, Dr. Robert Hazen, life begets rock, rock begets life. You see, beloveds, humans have been ecotheologians across millennia, across culture, across religious tradition, and even across discipline. As a species, we have been faithfully asking these big, spirit-filled questions across each generation. Questions like, what is so sacred about our natural world? And how does the act of beholding, of bearing witness to Earth's beauty and mystery, how does that act shape our morality and our devotion and commitments to creation? So today's question is, what is our eco story? What is the you story of how we came to be in spiritual kinship with the earth? And what does this story have to tell us in this time? Unitarian Universalists are bound by covenant. And this covenant includes being in right relationship with the planet. We define our collective religious identity as being held accountable to faithfully responding to the sacred connection within, among, and beyond us. And we do all of this holy work to try to liberate the planetary body of Earth and all of its inhabitants into a collective well-being. The mainstream environmental movement has deep roots in our religious heritage. The environmental movement that we have today was heavily influenced by many of our faith forebears. One of them was Unitarian minister and 19th century transcendentalist Ralph Waldo Emerson. In 1836, Emerson published an essay called Nature, which caused this big stir in the community for its bold claims that human beings were not actually separate from nature, but one with nature. And Emerson had a call to action, one that said for individuals to become free from the hindrances of society, we must go into solitude and gain divine intelligence or enlightenment, one that could be found in communing with nature. Emerson's teaching had this very big impact on another Unitarian-raised philosopher, writer, and poet, Henry David Thoreau, who later became a lead figure in the Transcendentalist movement. So for 2 years, Thoreau lived on a property outside Concord, Massachusetts, at this place called Walden Pond. It was in this cabin owned by his friend Ralph Waldo Emerson. And while there, Thoreau wrote a prose piece called Walden, or Life in the Woods. And that work was instrumental in shaping the environmental movement. In it, Thoreau shares his reflections about living a life of solitude and self-reflection out in nature. Those are some of the initial inklings that shape the dominant ethic of environmental and social responsibility. So in our own UU eco story, our religious ancestors have had a significant impact and influence in shaping today's environmental movement. And yet I wonder about those rocks out at Walden Pond. I wonder what those rocks might have to say to our faith movement today. What would those rocks out at Walden Pond say? I suspect that they would cry out, crying out, speaking truth to power by speaking truth in love. I think those rocks out at Walden Pond would say something like Reverend Dr. Sophia Benecourt, our UUA president and theologian, who made this claim about Unitarian Universalists and our justice for earth. These are her words. Quote, "We are the spiritual descendants of Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. Here is where one white man ideally finds himself alone in nature, in solitude, where indigenous people are, quote, removed from the landscape without comment or notice, and all others are ghettoized into urban wastelands to preserve for the privileged few an imaginary, untrampled wilderness." End quote. Beloveds, I think today we are called to heed the call of these rocks. The rocks that are crying out, it is time to revise our environmental ethic, to embrace environmental justice. And if we're going to do this faithfully, we must engage in new ecotheologies, ones that are relational and covenantal, challenging us to live in this interdependent, justice-centered spiritual intimacy with the earth. There is a framework developed by womanist theologian and scholar Dr. Melanie Harris that just might be an environmental justice ethic for our time. It's called eco-womanism. Eco-womanism reflects and centers the voices of Black women to raise consciousness of how important it is that race, class, age, ability, and gender, how important those things are if we're going to truly confront and disrupt all logics of domination. Logics of domination that have structurally, culturally, and physically inflicted violence upon the body of the earth in ways that parallel the structural, cultural, and physical violence inflicted upon Black women's bodies for economic gain and resource exploitation. So what does the rocks of eco-womanism cry out? They cry out saying we must practice an environmental justice, one that listens to the stories of Black women and other voices on the margins. For when we listen to these eco-stories, long-silenced memories are given voice about how generations of communities experiencing oppression have always been engaging in a spiritual earth activism. An earth activism that is way less concerned about preserving and romanticizing nature, and much more committed to bringing forth liberation and reparation for all of Earth's living systems. These are the kind of faithful commitments we need for environmental justice. These are the things we need to live into our shared UU values. Values that prioritize liberation over mere preservation of nature and seek justice for all living systems. So I believe it's time for us to write a new chapter in our eco story. One where Unitarian Universalists fully embrace our covenantal calling to practice earth care through more liberatory, justice-focused eco-theologies. Ones where we center marginalized voices, those who are most impacted by ecological crisis, so that we can hear the truths we need to be set collectively free. So, beloveds, let us listen to the echoes of the earth. Let us listen to the rocks as they cry out, saying, move beyond solitary enlightenment. Live in spiritual kinship with the earth, for you are interconnected and interdependent in this system. The cornerstones of our own faith, thankfully, they have never been set in stone. But inside every rock is this vibrating dance of mystery and activity, ever changing. If we listen, we can hear the rocks crying out, telling us that if creative motion is the reality, won't you join its liberating activity?